I didn't like it, and I've said repeatedly over the years that it's a window that was the bastion of bad business, because in the summer window you're planning, you're full of optimism. The future is yet to be determined. You have a footprint that you want to create, whether you're coming into the Premier League and it's the first season that you're there, or you're established there and you're looking at whatever syndrome you've got, the second season syndrome or the third season syndrome, and you're looking at different dynamics of what players you can get and what you can't get, but there's an optimism. Then you go to the January window and it's a desperation window where most of the time you're not in planning mode, you're in rectification mode. You've looked at the last 4 months, you're halfway through the season, and all of a sudden you're making decisions that economically you're being put behind the gun, because you've got agents with an egg timer going, you've got 30 days and we're watching this drop down, you know, and you're sitting there sort of bidding in an auction room against yourself, keep putting your hand up for the same player and raising the bar on yourself. I never liked it. I tried not to do business in January if I possibly could, because it was one of those markets where you are leading with your chin.
Did you come close to a significant signing in January?
Yeah, I mean, a few times we did business in the January window. Ones that got away from us in the January window that would have I think made a big difference were people like Michael Carrick in the 2005 window. In the Premier League,
you tried to get him from West Ham.
We had a deal agreed with West Ham for Michael Carrick. It might not sound a lot of money at £3.5 million, but don't forget West Ham were in the Championship because we'd left them there the previous year after beating them in the playoff final. And ultimately £3.5 million in 2005 money is probably 25 million in 2020 money. And we'd done a deal for Dean Ashton, and I tried to be a little bit cute with the fact that I'd gone to Norwich and West Bromwich Albion, who also wanted the player, who were also immersed in a relegation battle with us, and said, why don't we agree a price that we're all going to pay for this player? And rather than let Crew and Dario Gradi leverage us, why don't we all agree a price and let the player chooses his club, and so we get a player that wants to play for this club. Delia agreed to it. I think Jeremy Peace agreed to it. And as soon as we all agreed to it, Delia raised the bar and offered £5 million for him. So that might be naive on my part. But the summer one is
well done, Delia.
Yeah, well done, Delia. Cooked up something there. But the notion that the January window, and this one is a very curious one, because the way the transfer market has changed over the years, I'm not for transfer windows. I know it makes great television. I know it makes great intrigue. I've never been in the Alex Ferguson camp about being able to settle down on knowing what you've got and sticking with your roster. That's great, Alex, because you could buy what you want. Those that need to bend and flex and trade during the seasons are really massively inhibited by transfer windows. No other business in the world tells you when you can buy and sell your product. Only football. And the only people that really benefited out of it are agents, because they're the ones that have been able to really get the jeopardy in it. But the window that was the intriguing one was the planning one. The window that really got people's blood up, and specifically broadcasters, because January is where the jeopardy comes. You're halfway in the season. Who's going to do what, when and why? How's it going to look? And of course, what happened with the financial fair play governance was all of a sudden football clubs started to be a little bit more cooperative with one another. They started to put players out on loan. They started to be helpful because they had a reason for doing it.
Yeah.
They had to meet obligations. So this window, alongside the COVID-19 landscape, which is decimating finances, is doubling down on a loan mentality, because we're seeing loans. You know, the saga at Arsenal of Ozil has been brought, thankfully, to an end.
Yeah.
And that's been done by a loan transaction. The only real deal of any substance that I can think of during this window economically to date is Sebastian Haller going out the door
to Ajax,
and of course by Said Benrahma coming in from Brentford. But the rest of it is strategic moves.